Well, thank you both for joining me. And can I tell you how excited I am for this program in December that will feature both of you? I've always been a longtime fangirl of Tori, and now I am of you, Don, as well. And
Aw.
I have no shame in saying that I'm a fangirl of both of you. So I want to just start quickly with Don. When you first heard of Tori's story, because I was looking at the process from when you first heard about Tori to when this musical and the album you did of her came to fruition. I mean, we're looking at what, 17-ish years kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I mean, I first read about Tori in the Courier Journal in, I guess, 1998. Uh,
You're from Louisville, so you were growing
from
up here.
Louisville. Yep, I went to high school at Ballard, and yeah, it must have been in 1998. I was in high school. I was a senior in high school, and I read about her, and um, I think I knew someone that went to collegiate, maybe that knew her. It was I was aware of her, but had loosely, and then uh, I had never rowed in a rowboat, and then I moved to New York and went to college and joined the crew team, and actually
Are we
was.
blaming that on Tori?
I'm blaming it all on you, Tori. But it's funny, and I was thinking about it. I think I must have actually been rowing when you were rowing. I was
Yeah,
probably on
probably.
I was
Yeah,
probably rowing for the first time in the Long Island Sound
yeah.
when she was in the Atlantic. So,
Oh my
um,
gosh, isn't that well? And then so Tori, then later, Dawn has a friend, and there's a collaboration that happens. She writes an album called Row. It turns into a musical. When did you first hear the rumblings that your story was going to be turned into an album and a musical? And what was your reaction?
Yeah, I think it was about 8 years ago, and I was in this office at Spalding, a fairly new president, and these. Well, it was Brandon Cohn talked to Mac and said, "There's a woman named Dawn Landis. She's the real deal. She wants to meet Tori. You need to help make this work." So Mac called Jackie Howard, my gatekeeper of that era, and told Jackie, "You got to put put Dawn on Tori's calendar." And then, so Jackie did, because, life is better when you do what Mac asks you to do, because otherwise he'll just hound you. And then, so a few weeks
Mac
later,
being your husband, just in case
Mac being my
somebody does.
husband,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
Yeah. And so a colleague said, "Is that the Dawn Landis on your calendar?" I'm like, I don't know. Everybody at Spalding knows I'm pop culturally challenged, right? So they're like, look, you can come if you want. And so I had this, ambassador for my social skills who came to this meeting. And it was Dawn and Danny Goldstein. And they said, "What would it take to get the rights to your book? We'd like to write a musical." And honestly, I have no idea what I said in that meeting. But in my head, I'm going, "I'm an introvert. I don't want a musical. No, no, no." And and then Dawn pulls out her guitar and she sings two songs that are really smart and we're really right on target and
So do
true
you
to
remember
me.
what songs they were? Just even one of them?
I sang "Dear Heart," which is still in the show, but now it's a duet, and "Mount Everest," which is on the album as I sang it to Tori, but has changed quite a bit for the production.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is a musical about a woman alone in a rowboat. It's going nowhere. Like there is no harm in saying
So you
yes.
really thought that.
I really thought these are lovely people. I'm never going to see them again. It's okay to say yes. And then they went and did it, and it's amazing. Yeah.
All right, so we're going to fast forward to the show and you all at the premiere. But Don, you were talking about how nervous you were for that meeting. And then Danny was somebody that you had known and collaborated with to write this musical. Tell me about your mindset when you went into that meeting, because nerves.
Oh, so many nerves. I was early and I was wandering around the parking lot with my guitar, just like I'm sure people saw me, you know.
So is this your first meeting with Tori after you've read about her? Is something resonated you in your soul with her,
Yeah.
obviously?
Well, a great friend of mine, Danica Novgorodov from Louisville, passed me Tori's memoir, and I was living in New York, and I read that beautiful, beautiful book, A Pearl in the Storm, and this is how it went. It was sort of like, you know, one thing after one thing led to another, and I ran into Danny Goldstein, who I hadn't seen in 10 years, and he said, "Hey, you want to write a musical?" And I said, "I don't know. I've never thought about it before." And let's have some breakfast and talk about it. And so we did. And I had just finished Tori's memoir. And I said, well, I don't know if this could make a musical, but I really love this story. And then I gave it to Danny. He cried on the subway. He said, let's go get the rights if we can, and I wrote 2 songs and he wrote an outline. And so that's what we were coming armed with, those 2 very small things, a dream, an outline, and 2 songs.
It seems like fate, right? I mean, you read the book, then you run into Danny and he loves it. And
I really do think so. I do think so.
So then all of this with the nerves. Go ahead, Tori.
Yeah.
And then
There were 2 selling points in that meeting. One was Dawn and singing the 2 songs. The other was Danny was carrying this dog-eared copy of my book. I mean, it looked like it had been run over by a car. And that's, that just said he was serious, that they were serious. They weren't just, hey, we just found your book at the bookstore and we're asking you for the rights. Yeah.
You felt it. I mean, you felt it, Tori, that when they came in, that this was serious stuff. So Dawn, this is your first meeting with Tori after you've read about her, after you've, read the book and you followed her journey. And for heaven's sakes, you joined a row team.
I know, it's funny. That didn't even cross my mind until 2 years later, honestly. It's so crazy how much you could bury that stuff. But yeah, I was very nervous. Never in my life had I ever written about a person and then sung them my interpretation of their inner life. Is very strange.
Well, that's putting it all out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a strange, and it's funny. I don't think, I have written songs from the perspective of someone else, but never that deeply.
Yeah, and it was so true to me and true to form that I cried. I cried at Dear Heart.
Did you? Well, after listening to these songs, if people who are watching this haven't, they are just heartfelt, like you said, and smart and powerful and all of the things you would expect of Tori Murden McClure, right?
Well, and Dawn Landis. I mean,
exactly.
There are hundreds of thousands of ways to write this, and women don't get written this smart. Women don't get written this funny and this strong. Women tend to get written far more flawed, and there are, Tori's flaws do shine through and they're magnificent. I'm just saying. But yeah, women don't get to live this kind of show. Yeah.
Well, it is smart. I agree. And listening to Dawn's words and all those songs I was listening to yesterday, preparing for this interview, I was just like, oh my gosh, I told you, my son, and going, you need to hear this, get in here, So I totally agree with you on that. So then fast forward after that, Tori says yes, the meeting goes great. And then it becomes a musical. Premiered, we won't go into Deep Six because of COVID for a while and all of the crazy with the world, but then it premieres and you all sit down this past summer to watch it together. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that day, night.
Well, actually, the first time Tori saw it was the first time I saw it this summer because I had a baby. And so I wasn't able to physically be there for the rehearsal process. So I was Zooming in, which was pretty crazy, having all this stuff happen at once. So I made the drive up with my toddler and my infant and my husband, and we were all there. And I was actually supposed to see it the night before Tori, but it got rained out. And, there were a lot of performances that were rained out, unfortunately, because it was one of the rainiest seasons, one of the rainiest summers in the Berkshires.
Princess Dark Cloud.
It's just Tori's mojo.
I know.
No more outside.
So tell me about that night for each of you. Tori, to see it, the premiere, what were your feelings going into that? Because you are an introvert. We know how you are with that kind of thing. Were you like, okay, everybody just leave me alone? Because everybody's got to be all eyes on you as well.
Yeah, I had some friends there. Phoebe Wood was there, a bunch of friends from the National Outdoor Leadership School. And I was completely mesmerized by the performance of Grace McLean, who played the older Tori, played me ostensibly.
Mhm.
And she was so, I mean, it was just so transforming, her performance, that, or transporting, in that I was feeling the waves. I was feeling the salt wind. I was feeling like when Hurricane Danielle hit, my shoulder throbbed, my right shoulder throbbed as if somebody was kicking me. And this is the shoulder I dislocated in that storm. So I was reliving the musical, except in the moments when the Knowles people were laughing at Tori's flaws. and those were the only moments that sort of pulled me out of the sort of veil of memory. And but Grace's performance was just amazing. And fortunately, I was able to see the show 2 more times. The second time I was with my rowing sisters. So Luckett Davidson was on one side and Margaret Handmaker and Betsy Vaughn were on the other. And Luckett started to cry at a song called Drowning, where I'm in my deep, dark depression between the first row and the second row. And it was, that song is so well crafted that, you know, I was even worried about Dawn when I first heard the song. I'm like, no, she had to go all the way to the basement to write this song. And but Luckett started to cry during that song, and then there's a phone call between Tori and Luckett in the show that just sent Luckett right over the edge.
Wow.
And I was with her. So in that show, I was attentive to the secondary characters in a way, and then the third show was the only time I really got to see it as a spectator and not a participant. But it was so well crafted, and while I thought the audible version of the show was, as Mandy Greenfield called it, breathtaking, and I think it is breathtaking, there were so many subtle changes in the physical production that were just brilliant and lovely. And I know Dawn and Danny are perfectionists, and they're still seeking 3 more exponential levels of greatness. But each time I see it, I think it can't get any better than this. And each time I see it, it does.
Wow, that's real. That's really an endorsement there. Don, how was it for you watching and knowing that Tori was 1 seat over? I guess your husband was in between.
And actually, apparently there was a conversation about that
She
before I
did
sat
share
down.
that with me.
Yeah, it's funny because I'd having worked on it for so long, and having sung that part, you know, when we first started the performances of this, I was singing the songs, and then an actress would act the part, which I think was probably hard to watch as an audience member. But yeah, to really embody a character and then to watch it and sit back and watch it was interesting. And also, I had never seen it staged before. We had done tons of workshops and readings with actors at at mic stands, and reading the show and singing the show from reading the music. But to see it and in that setting, it was transporting is a beautiful word. I think. I mean, it's hard for me, honestly, I'm just so critical. So everything on my mind's just like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. Unfortunately, that's where my brain is. So for the first time, unfortunately, that's what I was thinking. But I did see it, I saw it 4 times. And so by the 4th time, I was able to relax and just see it for what it is. And it was beautiful. And Grace's performance was just stunning. Like, she takes you on the whole ride, and you fall in love with her. You know,
We are
that's what you
hoping
want.
the show eventually, I know, would be great to come to Louisville, and that's
I sure hope so.
plan down the road. So until then, we
But
get
when Mac and I win the lottery, we'll make sure.
Well, you keep trying, because I want it to come here.
Oh,
So
me too.
until then, though, we're doing a program with both of you all in December that I think is going to be a treat for Kentuckiana. I really do. We'll have a panel discussion. We're going to have you all talk. And then Dawn, you will perform some of the songs from your album?
Yes. And on the album, I enlisted some of my favorite musicians from Louisville, and I'm going to have some special guests appear. So I
Don't
won't
give them all away.
who. I won't give them away,
Can
but
you tell us one song we know you'll be singing that night?
Yes, I will definitely be singing the Amelia song, which is a
Oh.
song, one of my favorites from the show, which is an imagined duet with Tori and Amelia Earhart.
And just, and then I was talking to Tori because she got up and got an award that she had received, that is the Amelia Earhart Award, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Danny, that song came to be. Danny Goldstein was reading a book about Amelia Earhart to his daughter Gracie, and called and said, "Hey, what are your thoughts on Amelia Earhart?" And I was like, "Oh, I won this award," and I went and pulled out this award, and I don't I don't I don't think we were on Zoom, but anyway, I took a picture of it and sent it to him, and said, "Hey, I carry around this quote in my wallet all the time. It's a quote by Walter Lippmann about the death of Amelia Earhart," and I read it to him, and then Dawn and
Then it
Danny turned it into
became.
a song.
So tell me about this, because you two now seem so interconnected, both of you. What has this, I guess, tell me about your friendship and your thoughts of each other during this entire process, because it's obvious that there's such healthy respect between the two of you all. What has this done and led to as far as a friendship with you both?
There's a character in the show, Gerard Debaville, who was my mentor for the row, and he was involved, but always sort of on the periphery. Like he only stepped in if there was something really needed or I had a question. And I feel like that's my role in the development of the musical, that I've really been very hands off. The first years, I was like, the story is yours. And when I saw the show at Joe's Pub, I met Dawn and Danny after the show and said, "You're going to be pressured to make changes to the show. Change it. It's your story now." And Danny in particular, Dawn, they both looked horrified, but they were like, "No," and they have been so true to the book and so authentic to the story, that it's really a privilege for me to have said yes. And they're consummate experts, and I really understand in some deep way that if I inserted myself too much in the process, I'd mess it up. There were two changes made from the sort of one version I saw in the Audible that I would have fought them tooth and nail on, and they were right, to make
Hmm.
those changes. And so I like being asked what my thoughts are on a particular thing. I feel like metaphorically, I'm sitting on a bench in the hallway, and people come out of the room from time to time and ask me a question, and then they go back in the room. I like being asked and involved in that way, but it's theirs. It's all theirs.
And it's funny that you mentioned Gerard because when Rachel, when you were asking about our friendship, I think you are sort of my Gerard here, Tori, because I think you once described him as your Merlin also. Because you've done this before. Gerard had rode before, and you are sort of a spirit guide, but you can't go with me.
Right.
And that's exactly what's happened. So
Well, it has blossomed into just a beautiful thing, and just your friendship and your respect for each other. And like you said, so many times this doesn't happen with women. The smartness, the all of it. And it's just been such a privilege for me to kind of be on the sidelines and watch it all, and then get to have you both in December. I can't wait. What would you say to somebody out there about coming to this show, why they should come?
I hope they get to see the full production of Row at some point, because I do think one of the things this show does is it challenges the standard archetypes for women. And what Dawn and Danny have found in the book are human stories, are universal tales, that is just happens to be one woman's tale that speaks for all of us. But the struggles, Tori is clearly yearning and searching for something, and it's love, but it's not just romantic love. It's sort of a grounded sense of being at war with the world and knowing that that's okay. But they've really done something pretty magical, and now I will be quiet and listen to Dawn.
um, as far as why you should come, you got to see Tori in person and the boat in person, obviously. And I love singing these songs, and I have never actually sung them with the people that sang on the album in person because this album was made in the COVID era. So that'll be the first time that's ever happened. So it's an event. And also, I think of the songs as little teasers. You know, you get a glimpse of what the bigger picture is, but hopefully it leaves you wanting more. So.
Well, I can't wait. So thank you all very much for doing this. This is kind of our little teaser to get people here, which I'm sure we're not going to have any trouble because you say Don Landis and Tori Morton McClure, and people are going to come. So thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks for hosting.
Yeah.